Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webcast. This is a really fun one. We've been planning this one for a while, so I'm really happy we get to finally have it. We've been thinking about ideas and topics to explore, and what better way to explore sort of the final few days of summer with Under the Sea. Everyone wants to be at the beach. Everyone wants to be out on that boat, so we thought we could sort of get a taste of that with today's topic. So with that, I will take us through. You know me, I'm Levi Higgs. I'm the archivist at David Webb. We just are so excited to be able to share stories from the David Webb archive because there's so many. And it's just like a plethora of narratives that we can bring out with these webcasts. So today I'm joined by Sara Vincent. Hi, Sara.
Hi, Levi. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in.
Sara, I know people probably know you, but you want to give us just a little breakdown of your background, your interests?
Sure. My name is Sara Vincent. I work with the clients at David Webb. Levi and I went to the same master's program at Parsons. We were not the same year, but we became friends anyways. And I worked in the antiques world after getting my gemology degree. And then 2.5 years ago, I joined David Webb. And now Levi and I get to be colleagues as well as friends. It's very nice.
Perfect. I think we make a great team for these as well. So it's a perfect sort of conversational way to explore great topics from David Webb.
I love talking about jewelry with you.
Me too. So just a brief company history in case anyone doesn't know who's tuning in. David Webb founded his business in 1948. He was from North Carolina, moved to New York City, worked on 47th Street, really sort of worked his way up to be this great, well-known jeweler that we know today. By 1950, after 2 years of starting this company, he was landing on the cover of Vogue. So it was a meteoric rise instantly. The 60s and 70s are really sort of the time period that we think of as really iconic David Webb designs, and that's sort of what we really focus on as a company, as well as bringing those ideas into the future. And actually, I'm just noticing on this tray that's in this photo, there's sort of a hint of something that's to come. So take note of that gorgeous fish bracelet that's right there. But, in thinking about this topic, I always go back to the archive to sort of see what foundations there are. And of course, David Webb was a really learned, interested person in the world. And he had all these great books in the archive that we still have and use for research. And some of them you can see here. There's this German book on shells. There's Life in the Sea. There's this other French book under there. But the shell book has really gorgeous photography. It's all black and white, sort of on this beautiful textured fabric or something. And it just sort of shows, how varied his interests were. This spread with the octopuses from Life Under the Sea. Great movement in these photographs. I'm sure he was really inspired by this sort of thing. We've got a lobster and an octopus, and then there's the shell book opened as well. And here we have a French book that's really like a Beaux-Arts 19th century. It's like life around the seashore book. So there's things about people who are fishermen. There's all these great plates of different sea life. So here's some crabs. We've got seahorses here. And starfish as well. So I love seeing the drawings because you really get the movement of the animals.
You get an idea of how David Webb understood how to wrap a sea creature around a gemstone, like the tail of a seahorse or the limb of a starfish.
Exactly. I love seeing the texture of the seahorse too, and that sort of takes us through to this print book, which is a sort of Wiener Werkstatt, old German prints. They're huge indigo prints.
I definitely see Viennese successionists with the bubbles and the graphic, and I believe David Webb would absolutely be influenced by this, even just the bubbles themselves.
Absolutely. It's sort of abstracted in a way, but you definitely see the sea life and the waves, all these different elements from the ocean. So, with this sort of as our foundation, we can really sort of dive into the jewelry that he was making. And here we pulled some, just to show the breadth, really. We're going to go deeper into some of these animals, but like we've got the seahorse here. We've got a beautiful sea turtle in different forms. And specifically,
the tail wrapping to the different ideas of how to get that curl just right.
Exactly. And that you see straight from the print from the book. I also love the texture of the gold on the seahorse because it's so David Webb to have this like rough hewn gold texture, but then you're also getting it to mimic like exactly the texture of a seahorse too that you would think of.
It's so brought to life in only gold with a ruby eye. Like
right. Really simple. You could wear this during the day. And even the version with turquoise is really sort of daytime too, but
playful.
Yeah. And to imagine a turtle with a huge aquamarine as its shell is also lovely. And here we have some crabs. There's this chain, which is really great, which I don't think we've actually seen realized. That's just sort of a rendering of something that could be done.
We'd love to make it if you love it.
Yeah. And Sarah, I know you like this starfish in the middle.
I do. I love how he can go from sort of all gold and then to the highest form of elevated jewelry, this platinum and diamond, very dynamic, but extremely elegant, sophisticated, elevated piece of jewelry. And then the pearl just on top with the starfish I just think it's a perfect, almost like tongue-in-cheek, like as elegant as the sea can be.
Yes. And this one, the one in the center was photographed for our book. So if you've seen our David Webb book, which is on our website as well, then you'll recognize a few of these pieces. Go through.
These are larger pieces, the starfish it definitely has a lot of presence. You could wear it almost like this.
Right. And I just want to pause for a second. I feel like I forgot to mention this at the top of the episode, but please, if you're tuning in, we've got a Q&A box so you can submit questions as we go along. And there's also a chat box so you can interact with other people as we talk. So, okay, moving on. This definitely strays into the fantasy realm of Under the Sea, but we couldn't not talk about Neptune. One of my favorite pieces, this is a shot from Harper's Bazaar in 1965, and that's about when the brooch is from too. You can sort of see two different versions, like the drawing has it a little more just sort of simple enamel with the pearl body, a tiny bit of diamonds here down by his waist, but then over here you've got a lot of diamonds for bubbles, and the swirling around his tail is also diamonds, and then a ruby at the top of his throat there. But great dynamic photography with those nails and fingers, really interesting. And once again, David Webb's inspirations and references, these are pieces from the Met that are like Renaissance Baroque pearls turned into pendants. And that's a very long tradition of jewelry, is to use this sort of pearl to make a fantastical sea creature with. I had to include that in Swan. I just thought it was so fun.
It's perfect. And David, these are on view at the Met, and just like these, the Neptunes, even though maybe he did different versions of them, each pearl would be unique, so they'd be slightly different to fit that pearl.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So you can plan what you're going to do, but every time you get a pearl, you sort of have to respond to it, And this one's perfect because it's got this heart-shaped top that really works for his chest. So that's sort of the joy of the hunt, I suppose, is finding the pearl, letting it speak to you, changing the design if you need to.
It's a testament to the true artist and the artistry of jewelry to be able to look at the material and see what you could do with it.
Right.
And keep this in mind later in the presentation.
Absolutely. So continuing the Neptune theme here, this is a really great object. And I got to say, this object is large. It's one of his desk objects that David Webb did. But the top portion, let me use my cursor here, this little bit here, the head and the shoulders and the torso and all that, that's an 18th century piece of carved amber that David Webb would have acquired or found or had given to him or something. And then he executed the rest of the object. So, you see the drawing there. He's planning this great enameled tail and sort of the ruby fins and the enameled seaweed. It's really fantastic. I love it.
And he's really complementing the antique element. He's not putting it in competition.
Right.
It's beautiful and powerful. Like Levi said, it's quite large.
Yeah. I would love to have this at some point, but we'll see.
Good.
Yeah. So mermaids and mermen is such a fun theme to me. I mean, I could talk about them forever. And these are shots from Town and Country in the 90s. And of course, mermaids are gonna wear like big, bold, white enamel David Webb jewelry. They're sort of far away in the photos, but I think the necklace she's wearing here is this like amazing hammered gold, sort of spirally section collar. And she's got big gold cuffs. I mean, it's very like Daughters of Triton, you know, you think of the Little Mermaid and all that. And
Little Mermaid meets Vegas Showgirl meets David Webb.
Exactly, that headdress is very Vegas Showgirl. It's so fun. I love editorial like this.
It's fantastic, yeah.
And there was a mermaid brooch too. You've got, and same with the Neptune, you've got all sorts of different iterations. This would be from the mid-60s. She's got seaweed all along her body. Sometimes there's diamonds that are bubbles floating around there. There's a pearl in her tail. So it's...
I love the different options, you know. And you could put a pearl, you could put a stone, you could have her be entirely enamel. I think it's really whatever speaks to you. And even like the finish, sort of the satin skin versus the slightly textured, like each one is different.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a really great period when David Webb was doing amazing like sculptural bodies like this, whether it was the Neptune or a mermaid, or there's a fortune teller too, I think. Really great. And these were never made, but they were options for someone as a special commission. Other mermaids, they're a little more like slender, sort of, you know, maybe they're more sirens rather than mermaids, but they're beautiful.
They're very graceful. I hope we can make them someday.
I love the one with the crown. That's really...
Absolutely. She's the one.
She's the one. So sort of moving into the shell realm, of course, we want to talk about some of our great clients, and the Duchess of Windsor was a good client of David Webb's. Let's see, we've got a few different versions of sort of the same earring. So these are shells, maybe sea snails or snails, whatever, but they sort of, you know, evoke the same visual language of shells. And they've been studded with gold little Bastille points that we call them, these three here, right here. She's wearing the ones in this picture that, I think it's these with the turquoise tips. So those might not be David Webb that she's wearing, but she did have David Webb shell earrings. And she was...
All of those earrings are out of her collection, yeah?
Yes. So she was very into that look. And other pieces that she had from David Webb include she had a frog bracelet, an enameled double frog bracelet. And we have this great story of her, or that bracelet being purchased for her by the Duke of Windsor. And we have all this amazing documentation of them getting ready to take it on their ocean liner to go back to Paris, like leaving. They're in Palm Beach. They're going to leave out of New York, and the bracelet had to travel and get all these papers signed off. So it's a cool story. We'll touch a little bit on boat life as we go through, but yeah. Love the Duchess of Windsor. She's a great jewelry collector.
Amazing. Yeah. She had very good taste.
Shells, you know, there's so many different sorts of shells that he did, and whether he's like inspired by an actual shell, like with the earrings that we saw, or he's making a shell completely out of gold and diamonds here. And I think the oyster over on the far side has a pearl on the top, so it's sort of a little cheeky to put the pearl on the outside of the oyster. But
and then the one in the bottom right corner that looks like it has emeralds in it, we've done that. I've been fortunate enough to see it. We've done it with textured gold, diamonds, and then put a beautiful pearl right there, sort of inside of the shell. That was a brooch and pendant.
Totally. The shells sort of have so many different lives in the jewels of David Webb. Like these are compacts and handbags, and the one in this photo here is, I think it's enameled white on the outside, and then it has cabochon stones stuck all over it, and the great sort of gold lips that you see on the edge there. And that one's actually in the collection of the Rienzi Museum in Houston, after it was shot in Vogue in 1966. But it just works totally so well with all the like graphic patterns and everything.
And even on the one on the left, I just love the way the sapphires are fully sort of set into it like that.
Yeah, me too. and you see the mirror in there, so it's a beautiful compact. I know you love this one. I'll let you talk about
this. Talk about Little Mermaid. This is like my grown-up fantasy version.
Yeah.
So this is a compact that David Webb made in 1966, and it was a special commission for the Hospital for Special Surgery. They were doing a benefit that was conceived of by Jackie O and the Duchess of Windsor. According to the press, it was the first time that the two of them had actually ever met, and they teamed up. Jackie O, who was an amazing patron of David Webb and champion of his, commissioned him to make special objects. And so they made an exhibition to benefit the hospital, and this is one of those pieces. We are fortunate enough to have it in our museum collection, so I've gotten to hold it, and I just think it's so darling. It has a mirror on one side and, spot for makeup on the other. It's not quite big enough for a cell phone, but I'll still take it.
That would be this one, which is almost big enough for a cell phone. And same story here. This one's from 1966 for the same benefit, and we have it in our museum collection now.
I love that when you flip it, and hold it like a true clutch, your fingers actually go down the grooves of the giant clamshell. So it's the most sumptuous, luxurious, ergonomic piece ever.
Impractical / practical thing you could ever have.
It's really fun to hold, and we've made one as a special commission for someone.
Yes, so this one you're seeing is not for sale. It's in our museum collection, but we have recreated this. We had to get the molds, and it was a lot of gold to put together to make this thing again. But this one we made recently has a ruby in the starfish rather than an emerald, so it's a little different.
So we've made two. Ever.
So it's a fabulous thing. I mean, there's a great newspaper article in the archive that talks about like dancing with your golden handbag in your hand. Like that's what you're supposed to do. Don't leave this on the table if you're going to go dance. Like dance with it in your hand. A, so it doesn't get grabbed by someone else, and B, so that you can, sort of have a moment in it. Absolutely.
It's the ultimate accessory.
Yeah. We have a few others too. This one's maybe not necessarily an exact, seashell or something, but it's definitely giving you that sort of nautilus spiral.
Sort of vibe.
Yeah. What was the?
Oh no, not anemone. Excuse me.
Ammonite.
Ammonites. Yes, ammonites. Sometimes you see them fossilized, and they were sort of ancient sea creatures from the dinosaur era.
Right.
They have that beautiful sacred geometry spiral that we see in the sea life a lot.
Totally.
Well, I think let's count it as sea.
Sure, why not? A mermaid would have this, so it counts.
Absolutely. Mermaid approved.
Yeah. And this one was photographed for a book as well. So one more plug for the book. It is available on our website. I know we always get questions about that. So if people are interested, please go take a look for it. The Quintessential American Jeweler. But this piece was using a real shell, and it's not even that big. It's sort of a tiny shell and with the enameled seaweed. But like the fact that those ridges on the shell, that's a natural part of the shell that's so delicate. But you were mentioning like how to set those collet set stones into the shell without.
That is so technically impressive without, harming the shell, and then also just enameling those pieces where the heat it really blows my mind technically.
No.
And it's just so beautiful. It really is like the best of nature, the best of man coming together.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is our fish section, which is obviously a large section, but I love that this piece is sort of the anchor here because, pun intended, it's a Pisces, and that sort of straddles two worlds for David Webb. Zodiac was really important to him, but also the animals. And maybe you live in Miami and you love the ocean. Maybe you live in the Northeast and you love the ocean, or you're a water sign or whatever. But a double fish bracelet is something that you could really always enjoy in a lot of different facets.
This bracelet is just so beautiful. I mean, the photos are great, but it has such amazing whimsy and elegance at the same time in person. So it's really elevated, but it's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and it has all these different sort of, I don't know, I suppose you'd call them family members. Like, yes, you've got the bracelet that's really heavily diamond and with the beautiful rubies on its sort of back of its head, but then there's also this great ring, which is just enamel and gold with cabochon emerald eyes. That's a little more daytime, and definitely is part of the same family.
And this bracelet, Levi,
I'll go back. Sorry.
talk about the accoladed one. And
Oh, right. Of course. This was, there was the Town and Country Jewelry Awards, and there was a featured section all about enamel work, and this was one of the pieces that was included in that.
And if you see, it's just so smooth, the way those scales are done down the body. Even the ring, which is beautiful, it doesn't have quite that same effect. Right. The bracelet is really technically impressive. It's just perfectly flush.
Yeah, and I want to flip back here to this ad from Saks, like the fins at the bottom. It's so beautiful where it sort of hinges open, like they just sort of meet and undulate together. It's a really elegant way to put on a bracelet like this. And then of course there's also a brooch version. So these are, a little more flat version of the same sort of design. It just sort of sits there, but they're beautiful fish.
The drawing one definitely has the Pisces swirl.
Yeah.
And you can wear it as a pendant as well. So brooch and pendant.
And the drawing has the fish having pearls on their backs. And then the one that we have currently just doesn't have a pearl, but you could do the same emeralds or a carved ruby like the bracelet. Yeah, it's a great piece.
That turquoise enamel is so cheery too.
Yeah, and this is sort of straddling the line again, like, yes, these go with the family that we just saw, but they're also sort of part of their own thing. I think the drawing indicates that it's sort of from a zodiac section with the Aries version, the fish version. But using the turquoise as like the water swirling around is really a good way to use turquoise. And I think that this kind of brings me into our next section, which is all about the Renaissance dolphin. You really see like flipping.
They're dolphins, they're fish. They kind of look like birds, but then don't because of the sea elements. But the Renaissance dolphin, I definitely see over and over again that influence in David Webb's work. And he would have seen that both in person at the Met, on travels. I mean, it's all over the Renaissance, from furniture to fountains to etchings.
Yeah, this is a fountain from Rome. And then the other pieces, I think they're like, maybe they go next to a fireplace or something, and those are at the Met. So yes, you're exactly right. He could have seen.
They're very fantastical. You sort of have to know your art history to recognize them as dolphins immediately. They almost read more like sea dragons.
Yeah. Well, it's like the same sort of mentality. Like, there's this one bridge. This is a little bit of an aside, but it makes a point. There's a bridge in Washington, D.C. that has buffaloes on the sides of them, but it was made at a time when like people in Washington, D.C. and sculptors hadn't ever seen a buffalo in person. And so they don't really look like real buffaloes. But, people may not have really seen dolphins super up close at this point in history. So they're sort of making them be a little more fantastical sea creature-like. Because maybe that's all they could really tell from afar from their ships or whatever. But
and the sea is to be feared. Love, but,
respected, feared. But the idea of the Renaissance dolphin sort of filters through a lot of these fish pieces, I feel, because they can be really bejeweled, and they can be sort of abstracted to be like, I don't really know what sort of fish this is. Like, I couldn't identify it necessarily as a carp or a halibut or whatever, or a tuna. But to have the drop of the pearl is really an elegant way to like bring in that sort of the Renaissance pendant with the pearl notion again.
And just the swirl of it has that sort of Renaissance movement to it.
Right. I love the photograph here. It's from Harper's Bazaar, 1967. And it's like taken just as the tide is going out. So like the sand is all swirling from the water and the coral piece there. It's just a beautiful shot.
Beautiful. And daring to put a piece of jewelry in the ocean like that.
Yeah. Hope they had good insurance at that point. I'm sure they did. This bracelet is also a great sort of Renaissance dolphin fish. You can have it enameled with the white along the scales. You can have it gold, as you see in the drawing. But it always has this great bejeweled like lips and eyes and head mounting in the tail. And it just really feels like, a dolphin that's going to like be put in the stirrups and carry a conch shell, for Neptune or something. some other photos of it. It's a really fluid, nice animal bracelet.
In the fully enameled version, it very much gives me the Renaissance feeling, like those Baroque pearl pieces and the dolphins.
And the like quilting of its head with the gold is really interesting. I'm sort of just noticing that, and I love the diamond.
That scales. It's true.
Yeah. Nice. And this is sort of the opposite side of the coin here. You know, of course, David Webb is also very much known for his carved animal bracelets too. The drawing might be a little more, it could be oxblood coral, it could be a carnelian version, but then here on the photograph, we've got nephrite.
And we've also done it in lapis lazuli, which is a true deep blue, which was gorgeous, and a chrysoprase, which was sort of an electric seafoam green. Really beautiful and very, it felt like a tropical fish all of a sudden.
We do have a question from the audience that's relevant. So the question is, did David Webb do the illustrations himself? Great question. I'm going to flip back quickly to show you this drawing. So he would have done a drawing like this. He was very much a pencil sketcher, and he worked on a very particular pad of paper, which is this sort of paper. So he would figure out the design, and then the full color renderings that you see on black here and here, these would be done by artists that he employed. So they'd turn his idea into sort of a to-scale version of the piece to be shown to the client, so they can see from the top view, they can see from the side view. It's literally the same size on the paper as it would be in real life, so they can put it next to their arm and be like, oh yes, this scale makes sense. So that's sort of how the, from his brain to real piece of jewelry process worked. Good question. Thank you.
They would be presented to the client as options, and
yes,
then the client would choose from them. So sometimes that's why we have designs that have never been made.
Exactly.
We could always bring them to life, and we'd love to.
Definitely. This is a really fun piece. It's one of my favorites. I guess it's sort of a kingfish, maybe.
Kingfish, absolutely. It's got a crown.
Yeah. I always think of it as like, if this was going to be on a can of really fancy tuna, like this would be the symbol of the tuna. But the red enamel is really sumptuous. The crown is great. The little hint of a turquoise is beautiful too.
And it has personality, but it's not cartoonish.
Yeah.
And I think that's something David Webb is exceptionally skilled at. His animals never read. They're whimsical and they have personality, but they're not silly.
Right.
And I think that's something you notice with his creatures, and his under the sea creatures are a great testament to it as well.
Totally. This sort of brings us back to the conversation we were looking at the starfish brooch, because here you've got two great versions of like a hippocampus, like a seahorse, like a mermaid horse sort of situation, and one is really sort of high diamonds, an evening look, and one is a little more day with coral at least, but they're beautiful.
And they have the same energy to them, that same movement. They're still they go in the same collection almost, like a high and low, not a low, of course, but day and night.
Sure, perfect. Yeah, they're great. And the use of the baguette diamonds on the tail is really fun too.
And in the mane too.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then the marquise around. I mean, it's very hard to make a dimensional piece just entirely out of diamonds. So that play of using the different stones is it's very subtle, and you kind of don't realize it at first, but that's what makes it work.
Yep. Good point. This is a really fun piece too. We don't have a ton of octopi, but
that's the official word. I read a whole book on them.
Oh wow, okay, good to know. But we do have this one, and it's grabbing this great amethyst, and it's on a coral branch. I love, my favorite part about it is on the back, because the coral branch is totally reinforced by like a spider web of gold, so it's a really secure piece. And it was photographed.
My favorite part about it is the branch itself. I love that we designed an octopus for this specific piece, and it's a true couture piece. That incredible Siberian amethyst, that branch of coral. We could always make a different version, but it will never be quite like this, and it's very large, as you can see in the town and country spread. Definitely.
And yeah, these were all different animal pieces featured, so great to be included in current editorial too.
We love town and country.
Yeah. This is, so we're going a little bit back in time, but we do want to talk about sort of the opposite side of not sea creatures, but life at sea. This is Vogue 1958, and it's very much like a sailor's life for me, like your cute little, color blocked, very streamlined look for going on a boat. And the jewelry she's wearing is David Webb jewelry. It just happens to be turquoise, sort of ropey gold, diamonds, like, a little more typical 1950s fancy housewife jewelry.
On the sea rather than under the sea.
Exactly. But in that same vein, we do have a lot of interesting stories of clients who had yachts or boats, or they lived by the sea and had like that sort of lifestyle, and they really wanted their jewelry to express that lifestyle. So here we have some special commissions that we've made for people who wanted to express that. This is an anchor done in great gemstones. I love the sort of crossed diamond section too. I think that's really
diamond rope.
Yeah. And they also had this piece done as well, which is, the same sort of color story, but it's all done in enamel. My favorite part about this was the gold chain, because it was so heavy. It was like a very thick, heavy gold chain. So you could wear it as a necklace, you could wear it as a brooch. This portion of the gold chain that's sort of wrapped around was like stationary on the piece. So yeah, it's just, and I think there were cufflinks too that were also part of this match set.
His and hers.
His and hers, absolutely. This is Charles Revson's boat, the Ultima II. Well, it's not a boat, I'm sorry, it is a yacht.
The yacht, yes.
And Charles Revson, of course, famous for Revlon makeup. David Webb had a lot of great relationships with people like that in the 60s and 70s. He was very close with Estee Lauder as well. I think there were some David Webb jewels used in Revlon ads in the 60s and 70s. So this is a photo of the yacht, and then also a gold version of the yacht on malachite waves, which would be a desk object again. So it's a big thing that would be on your desk in your office, or at the captain's desk in the yacht.
For sure.
Yeah, that's a little like meta. Like, here's my version of the yacht in the yacht. But
I think yacht people love their yachts.
We do. And to that point, there's a lot of stuff from the Revsons about the yacht. I mean, we actually, this thing in the bottom corner is a stationery card from the Ultima II, given as reference to make these gold buttons or the Revson flag pin. It's sort of, all-encompassing of your lifestyle when you have a yacht, which is great. I love that. Okay, so going back to animals, we have talked a lot about the repoussé cuffs in the past, and if you're super interested in this particular goldfish one, I'd recommend you go back to our YouTube channel and watch our webcast with the CAD team, because we talk a lot about this piece and how it sort of came to be. But anyway, this is sort of a goldfish koi moment. I pulled the goldfish drawing here of the brooch because I was super interested to see it drawn like this, because I feel like maybe these lines, maybe there's like empty space there. Maybe it's like thin gold wiring for the tail.
Open work.
Yeah, I feel like that's really interesting and beautiful. I've never seen David Webb do something like that, but I just love this fish. And it sort of translates exactly to how this repoussé cuff exists as well. I know you like repoussé cuffs too.
I do. We have a whole animal kingdom of them.
Yes.
And they're really fun to wear, one on each wrist.
Yeah, and they're really like great daytime jewelry, because from afar or just walking through a room, it just looks like a fabulous gold bracelet, but then you sort of a wink to yourself, you've got great animals there too.
The animals are very personality driven. So it's really fun to see sort of which person is drawn to which animal. It's like the ultimate version of spirit animals.
Absolutely. And here's a version with two dolphins sort of intertwined.
And this was a special commission for a couple, and dolphins mate for life. So it's romantic in that way. And I love the way we swirled them together in sort of an infinity loop.
Me too. I think other repoussé cuffs that are sort of sea life, we definitely have a turtle that I've seen in the archive. But beyond sea life, there's a pig, there's a walrus, there's hippos, there's
alligators, there's phoenixes, there's eagles, lions, leopards, of course. That's probably our most popular.
Yep.
Elephants, triceratops.
They're so fun. So I know that we had teased a new piece that would be debuted during this webcast, and this is the new piece. I'm really excited that we get to do this, Sarah. This is a sort of a fun thing that we've never done before.
We are so excited to share it with you, unveil it to the world.
So this is the leaping fish cuff. And Sarah, why don't you talk to us about the stone and sort of how this
So this is out of our Repoussé family, but this is a couture piece, obviously, because of this incredible Colombian emerald that's in the center. And it has a lot of silk in the stone, which means it has almost like a billowy sheen that rolls over the polished surface of it, and it really has an under the sea sort of fish scale look. Shimmer, yes, exactly, and it's very dynamic. And whoever cut this incredible emerald, we don't know who the lapidary was. We purchased the stone in this amazing cut. Was able to see, like those Renaissance artists, what the stone could be. And so they put it in this fish shape. And then once we came across this incredible stone, it was our challenge and pleasure to make it into one of our amazing pieces. And as you can see, we created a Repoussé cuff, completely unique to this stone. I think it's such an amazing design. I wish we could make more of them, but there's just no way.
Yeah. I just love how it's leaping out of the waves, the like diamond waves with the sapphire bubbles. It's so fun.
And the swirls down the sides, again, sort of linking back to the Successionist books, that big indigo print, you see that graphic quality there.
Okay, so I do have the bracelet here. I'm going to see if I can make this work very quickly without too much of a hiccup. So I'm stopping sharing. I'm bringing in this other camera. Stand by. Mute myself here. Okay, are we good?
We're good. Yeah.
Okay, we did it. So you should be able to hear my voice just on the bracelet, so you can see it sort of as I talk, but this is it. It is beautiful.
You can see the sheen sort of rolling over it, that incredible emerald.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
And it's very sculptural.
And it just hinges open here.
Do you want to put it on?
Oh, I don't know if that's a good idea.
So this is a unique, brand new design for this stone, and we're very excited to share it with you.
Yeah.
Just like everyone, our workshop was closed for a while, and this is one of the new pieces we've been able to make since reopening.
Yep, and this is the first time it's seen the light of day, and someone says please put it on. Okay. You twisted my arm.
I do this all the time.
I don't know how good it looks with a hairy wrist, but
you get a sense of scale.
That's true.
And
I'm trying to keep it in focus here.
It's 360, as you gesticulate, you'll see ripples, and as you hail your cab, you'll see diamond swirls.
Right. Okay. Transitioning back. Hold on.
Thank you, audience, for bearing with us with this new tech approach that we're doing.
Yeah. Okay, 1 second. Okay, so now we do have a few other questions from the audience. Would you say that David Webb designed more land animals, sea animals, bugs, or fantasy animals? That's a good question. I feel like it would be hard to quantify. Probably just the answer off the top of my head would be land animals when you think about the zebra and the horses and all the like the jungle cats and elephants, like the big African animals that you think about.
I would say animals as well.
What's that? I'm sorry.
I would say land animals as well. Right. But then with the fantasy creatures, he really reaches from around the world. So it's not just one particular culture. Like he'll do chimera or macaras and Neptunes and ancient Greek gods, zodiacs. It's like we've seen some amazing Mayan carved jaguar masks and things.
Yes, that's true. Okay, another question. Did David Webb travel internationally and explore the world when he was interested in all these different sorts of animals? That's a good question. We don't know a ton about his personal life. The archive that we have is very much like a company sort of professional archive, but we do have a ton of newspaper articles that talk about different things that he did. And one that sticks out to me, when he was designing the rock crystal jewelry in the early 70s, there's an article about him being at a party and talking to Gloria Vanderbilt, and he was inspired by that conversation with her. And it says, like, the next day, David Webb was on a plane to Sydney to visit friends in Australia, and he drew rock crystal sketches the whole way. So yes, he was like an international traveler. He was a big gardener. He had a home upstate New York in a town called Cross River. So I feel like it was very much a collector of things and ideas, and traveling to museums and getting inspired there. I'm sure he went to the Museum of Natural History all the time too.
And we know that his clients, who were the top of society in the day, they traveled and they would bring pieces that they had acquired on their travels to him and collaborate. So we have some incredible one-of-a-kind unique objects that are literally like travel treasures of his clients.
Definitely. Okay, one more. Let's see. This is interesting. Which specific gemstones do you think lend themselves well to being used in sea creature jewels? Oh, I love that.
Aquamarine, of course.
Aquamarine, absolutely. Like obviously this emerald is sort of primed for this sort of use. I feel like all those really shimmery stones, like oh my gosh, labradorite.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Black opal, sort of the stones that have phenomena to them, in that sort of blue-green category. I feel like they all could lend themselves beautifully. And then abalone, which we use sometimes, which is unbelievably gorgeous and tricky.
Totally. Oh wait, one more good one. Does David Webb do special commission sea creatures for clients?
Yes, so we're always happy to do that. Like the clamshell clutch, that's a perfect example of a piece that's out of our museum collection that someone really wanted, and we gladly brought it to life again. But because these pieces are couture, one-of-a-kind objects, we like to make each one a little different. So anything that you see, we can always recreate, except the leaping fish. And the coral, and anything, with a branch of coral, something like that. We could make you a sister piece. But I think that's just another reason why our pieces are so special, because they are unique, and we work with nature. We don't force nature, we work with her.
Yep. Okay, well, Sara, thank you so much. I feel like this was a really fun topic. I enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed it. And thank you everyone for tuning in. I hope you're all having a lovely end of summer. Get out there, enjoy nature and the water, and thanks for tuning in.
Thank you all so much. Stay safe, and it was a pleasure to unveil a new creation with you all. We hope you enjoyed.